It will be a bit more scream. Oh, will it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Liv and I'm a walk leader at Charnwood Forest Alpacas, and today we're just going to go over some questions that any of you guys have, and I'm just going to basically pretty much just spill some facts about these lovely alpacas which are currently on the left hand side of me at the moment, so you can't really see them, but I'm sure they'll be wandering around throughout this whole thing, so you do get to have a lovely view of them and see what they're up to today. So alpacas are from the Andes, so places like Peru, Chile, Bolivia. So they're naturally high up in the mountains as well. Obviously here they're kind of a British size, so they don't really like hills here. We try and get them up the hills on the walks, and they absolutely despise it. So it gets a lot of us to sort of go, come on boys, let's go, go, go. But yeah, so that's where they're naturally from. They are part of the camelid family, so that's alpacas, camels, llamas. The main difference between the two is one, their height. So alpacas are a lot more smaller, llamas are a lot more taller. Our llamas can get to about 6 foot, whereas llamas can only get to about 5'2". Another difference is in their ears. So alpacas have spear-shaped pointy ears, whereas llamas have big banana-shaped ears. So if you remember banana llama, you know which one you're looking at. Another difference is in their temperament. So for an alpaca, everything's a lot more effort. They're a pretty chilled, laid-back animal. Whereas llamas can be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more spitty. They'll spit at anyone and anything. Could even be a lamppost if it's in their way. Whereas alpacas, it just takes a lot more for them to get a bit more aggressive. Now, these do spit, but they won't necessarily spit at people on purpose. It is normally a case of us getting caught in the crossfire between two having an argument, which does happen a lot here on the farm, especially when it comes to feeding. These guys are ever so greedy. But it's all part of the cuteness. You know, you never leave this farm smelling normal. You always smell quite funky. They're also quite curious animals. They're always very, you know, sometimes when we're on herd feed, where we're feeding most of the main herd, sometimes we get a lot of hares. So sometimes they come like nose to nose with the hair. The hair will bomb off, and they're just like, oh my god, this is crazy. So they are very curious. They absolutely love children as well. There's something about small people that they love. And they're also very, very calming as well. A lot of people do use them for like therapy. So any people that are struggling like mentally, any people that have like any sort of disability, a lot of people use them in care homes just because it gives them that extra bit of a boost. Like sometimes we go on our walks and the amount of people that come up to us and they say, this is so chill, it's so calm, and I feel so much better afterwards. That is what these guys do. So a lot of people that work here, it's very rare that we leave here quite depressed. We all leave here quite happy just from being around these lovely, lovely animals. All of our animals are halter trained as well, all of our alpacas. We normally start from about 6 months to 9 months old. The purpose of halter training is it gets them so much more used to people. They can just come up to you as well. They're less scared once they're halter trained, and it's kind of trying to get the basics of trying to get them from a young age to grow up and be a really loving alpaca. So the way we do it is normally within 6 months we'll start to separate them from the mums from 6 months, and then from then we'll start the halter training process, which is it starts off just by putting a halter on them, trying to get them used to it, a bit more comfortable with it, and then we'll probably do that for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but it's over a couple of days, couple of weeks process. And then once they've got a little bit more used to the halter, what we'll do is we'll start taking them on like a tiny walk, maybe just where we are on the farm. We've got a little bit of a wooded area, so once they're haltered up, on a lead rope, we'll take them off to the woods. Sometimes they can be a bit funny. A lot of the times they do kind of play dead and they just flop on the floor, which has happened quite a few times where we've just had to pick them back up off the floor. They throw a bit of a fit, but afterwards they're absolutely fine once they're used to actually trying to get the gist of it. It's almost like putting boots on a dog. It's kind of one of those where they just don't know how to function once they're on a lead rope. But after about 2, maybe 3 months, they're completely used to it, and we'll take them for a bit of a longer walk, a bit of a longer process to walk. And by then they're ready for our 60-minute alpaca walk, which normally they're pretty set by within about maybe 3 or 4 months. They're pretty accurate, they're pretty set to go on their jolly walks. So we're going to go on to alpaca fleece. So alpaca fleece is hypoenergenic, which I think is how you say it. I'm rather dyslexic, so I don't really know. Which means you can't actually be allergic to it. So for someone like me, who I'm quite allergic to cat fleece, I'm allergic to cat fleece, cat fur, dog fur, you can't get this around these. They don't have the lanolin in it, which is what the sheep have, whereas a lot of people will be allergic to sheep, but because it's not got the lanolin in it, you can't actually be allergic. So you can use alpaca fleece straight off the alpaca. A lot of people use it for stuffing. A lot of people use it for quilts, hats, scarves, coats, blankets. So it comes off in 3 parts when it comes to shearing as well. So you've got the blanket, which is the body part, then you've got the neck and legs, and then you've got kind of the leftovers, which is mostly part of like what you use for the stuffing. The blanket is mostly used for the hats, scarves, jumpers, cardigans, sometimes even wedding dresses. There are 2 different types of alpacas. So all of these that we have in with us today, these are wakayas. And the other is a Surrey. So the really only difference between the 2 is in their fleece. So an alpaca's, a wakaya's fleece will grow really big and fluffy, and then the Surrey's fleece is more like curtained, a lot more dreadlocked. So that's really how you tell the difference between the two sorts. We've got a few Surreys on the farm. We've got one called Palo. We've got Tota. He's a mix of 2. He's really, really beautiful. And you can actually use the Surrey's fleece as a wedding dress as well. I've never seen one in real life, but that's just a little of a known fact that I do know. So onto the health and care of the alpacas. So every 2 or 3 months, what we'll do is we'll go through the time scale of how long their toenails are. So normally every 2 to 3 months, we do a toenail trim, which is a fairly simple process, which you can do on your own. Again, with these guys, because these have been around people from such a young age, these are so chilled, very laid back. So it does come to a point where you can just kind of do the toenails on your own. Sometimes what you'll have is a holder and then someone doing the toenails. It's a very simple process. If you are doing it on your own, you just tie them up somewhere nice and tightly and then just go down and trim their toenails. Another thing that we do is give them a bit of a haircut. So we shear them once a year, but during that whole year of the process, that front top bit is going to get very long. So we do trim that down quite a bit just so they can carry on seeing. At the moment, these guys, we sheared these in May, so they have got a bit of a thick fleece coming back through at the moment. So, and normally we will shear them every May. So by then, they'll be nice and fluffy, nice and thick as well. So we're going to go on to the breeding side of our alpacas. Now, this is such a lovely process to sort of experience and be a part of. I've been here for 3 years now, so being in this sort of environment and watching how the breeding works and watching how, well, not necessarily how babies are made, which is what I was going to say, because we all know how babies are made, but it's more just the growing and the caring and how much thought and time goes into it. So we do, it's almost like we're third wheeling in a relationship when we come to the breeding. So we have to watch them to make sure that they're not going to venture off. They're not going to leave the female hanging. But what we don't do is we don't force them to do it if they don't want to. It's a very, the females will normally tell us when they're not into it. They'll probably just spit, they'll walk off, they're just not having it. If they do want to get pregnant, what they do is they will sit, and it's a bit, we call it, it's a cush position. And basically what this is, it's a bit like a cat where they sort of tuck their paws into it, inside of them, and they just sit there. And that's how they know that the male is ready to get on top. Now, alpacas are rather not with it when it comes to doing the deed, so we do have to help them out a little bit, maybe just pop it in for them, which is quite a disgusting process, but it's quite fun to watch. So Normally it's about 15 minutes is what they have to come to the breeding part. And it's quite weird because it's like the females know when 15 minutes is up, they're ready to just go off now. So it takes 15 minutes for the breeding, and then what we do after that is a spit off. So we'll probably do this within about 2 to 3 months after, and it's pretty much where we'll get the female and the stud back together again, and we'll lead the male up to her, and if she's pregnant, if she's not pregnant, she'll sit back down in the cush position. If she's being submissive, she says, yes, let's carry on, let's go again. If she's already pregnant, what she will do is she will rear up on her back 2 legs, and she will release a great big green ball of spit, and she will launch it directly into the male's face, and sometimes it does miss the male and it does come on to us, but it's all part of the process. It is a lovely thing that we do. However, this year, we've never done it before. We actually did pregnancy scans, which was such a beautiful process to watch. You can see the little arms and legs inside of mum, and it's just a gorgeous little process to sit there and watch. Almost like having your first little baby scan to witness yourself without having a baby. It is so, so loving and it's so sweet. So the females are pregnant for 11.5 months, so it is a pretty long wait. But what they can do is they can pause their pregnancy. So it's 2 weeks into the having a baby, they can just press pause and nothing happens to mum, nothing happens to baby. It's just like pressing pause on a TV where you can just go to the toilet, you can go and get some snacks, and nothing really happens. Baby is still absolutely fine, there's no issues. It's just so mum can look after herself through the winter period. And then after those 2 weeks, she'll press play on that pregnancy and it will be like nothing ever happened, like I said. So another thing they can do is they can actually reabsorb a baby as well. So this can sometimes happen within the first few months process. And the reasons they sort of do it is if she's not happy that she's having a baby, she might completely change her mind and say, do you know what, I'm not actually feeling this anymore. She would just sort of reabsorb that baby back inside her as if it was just never there in the first place. Another reason she'll absorb is because she might feel like her baby just isn't healthy. Now, she could feel that something isn't quite right, she'll just absorb it back inside her, and again, as if it was just never there in the first place. And another reason she'll absorb is because she might feel like she's having twins. Now, twins in alpacas is very rare, mostly because of the size that a baby comes out as. So a baby alpaca with Korea, spelled C-R-I-A, comes out the same size as a human leg, with a full set of teeth and are up and running in an hour. And mum knows that there is absolutely no room for 2. So she does have the ability to also absorb one and not the other, or both. It's entirely up to her what she's feeling at that moment of time, which is quite extraordinary, really. I do also believe that dogs do it as well, but I'm not entirely sure on how good that is and how accurate that is. So alpacas do live up to 15 to 20 years old. Now, each year of their life is 4 years, so technically to them, they can live up to 80 to maybe 100 years old. But to us, it is just 15 to 20. Normally at the age of possibly 12 to 15 is when we will retire them off. Now, they can do several things for when they retire. One of them being they can just sit in the field all day and do absolutely nothing and live the rest of their life quite happily. Or another thing they can become is a herd guard. Now, when I say herd guard, it almost sounds like it's not really retirement and it sounds like a big responsibility. But all they really have to do is, one, either just poo, and that is because the smell of the poo gets rid of foxes. Foxes hate it, cats hate it, they won't go anywhere near it. And another one is, a lot of the time, depending on what alpaca you choose, you've got to choose the right one to do this. They will chase the fox off. So what they'll do is they make a herd call, and this sounds a bit like a squeaky toy. If you've got a dog and you've got a squeaky toy, it sounds just like that. It's quite funny when they do it. We've got one called Bronze who does it all the time for no reason. It's quite funny. So what they do is they make that sound, and it's basically they all gather together and they look at whatever it is that is bothering them, and they'll make this sound and they'll just stand up to what they want. So if a fox is coming along and they do not want that fox in that field, that fox is going. It does not matter who it is, what it is, it's gone. Which is why a lot of people will use them for lambs. We used a couple of our really good retired alpacas for our lambs last year, and we had no problems with foxes. And people also, quite often, they use them with chickens as well, which again just avoids any complications with foxes. Alpacas are also very tidy animals. They might not look like it because they can be quite dusty at times. But what I mean by this is alpacas are very clean when it comes to going to the toilet. So alpacas, they always have their own designated toilet spot. So on the walk, we've got a long stretch of grass which we know they're going to go. So we do announce to the group, we might be here for quite some time, as they do also go for a wee for about 15 minutes at a time. We've got one alpaca on the farm called Bungle. I think his longest wee was probably 20 minutes we were stood on that poo patch for. It's quite you just have to make jokes about it because you are stood there for quite a while just watching them pee. So yeah, they're really tiny animals. Now in their field, they will have like several poo spots, but they won't just go anywhere random. So when we know that we come to mucking out, we've got 3 pens that these guys go in, and we know each time when we muck out, we know exactly where the pee and poo is going to be. So it makes it a fairly easy process for us to muck out. What else have we got? I don't know, have we got any questions yet?
Not yet, no.
Not yet? That's fine. Let me see what else we've got on here.
Question from Catherine.
Yes.
What would happen if you didn't shear them? How long would their wool grow?
It's quite long, especially for a Surrey. A Surrey's fleece, you don't have to shear a Surrey for about 2 to 3 years at a time. During that time, they do get very tangly, they do get very ragged. So we normally say, like, we do ours every year anyway, just along with all the others. A Surrey's fleece will just keep growing and growing and growing, and because it gets quite long, it's almost, a Surrey's fleece is a bit like noodles, where they just dangle and they're quite long. So that will just keep getting longer and longer down to the floor. These more get thick and thick and thicker and thicker. So it's actually illegal not to shear them. So I think we had a case last year, it was an RSPCA case, where our manager had to go off to this house because we had a phone call. And I'm sure she said it was probably like 3 or 4 years growth, and it was horrendous. They were covered in dust, it was all dusty, it was tangled, it was just awful. So it will just keep growing and growing and growing, and because it's so thick as well, that's a whole lot of thickness, especially in the hot weather, and they stress heat, and they can potentially just die as well. So it's not great. Definitely shear your alpacas.
So we've got a question from Victoria. Do alpacas get on well with other animals?
They do. So what we normally say is to have alpacas, you want another one of their own kind, but they can also happily live with sheep as long as you do also have another alpaca. So they can live with sheep, chickens. I'm sure they potentially live with horses as well. You just got to be careful that the horses don't kick, else that might be a really bad thing to have to go through. Yeah, they can absolutely live with any other animal. Yeah, they're really happy to.
So, can you keep an alpaca as a pet, and how much space do you need?
So you can absolutely keep alpacas as pets. We've got quite a few liveries that come down, and that buyers that will come down and take them home. So we normally say 3 is a herd, really. You can have 2, however, if you were to have 2 and something was to drastically happen to another one, you would have to very, very quickly get another alpaca. They do not like being on their own. So you can have 3 alpacas on 1 acre of land. So it can be a fairly big space. What you can do as well, maybe cut that field so you've got 2 paddocks so that you can swap for grazing as well. So yeah, you can definitely have 3 alpacas on 1 acre as well.
How do they differ from their llama counterparts?
What does that mean?
How are they different?
Oh, so alpacas are smaller, so they get to 5'2", whereas a llama can get to 6 foot. Another one is in their ears. So alpacas have spear-shaped pointy ears, and llamas have big banana-shaped ears. Another one is temperament. So alpacas are fairly chilled, and they won't really spit as much, whereas llamas, they're a little bit more aggressive. These guys do spit. They won't necessarily spit at people on purpose. It is normally a case of us getting caught in crossfire between two having an argument, which does happen quite a lot on this farm. But yeah, that's the main difference between alpacas and llamas.
How do you become an alpaca walker?
We can demonstrate how to be an alpaca walker. So, I think, yeah, we'll demonstrate it. So, yeah, so we're going to demonstrate how we walk an alpaca anyway. So basically, what I did was I just applied. A job was going. I was a bit unsure because I was like, I didn't even know alpacas were a thing until I started working here 3 years ago. So yeah, I just applied. I think it came up as experienced leader, and I did a bit of research, and I was like, okay, this is something I could do. And then I came for the job interview, and I was like, nah, I don't think they're going to choose me. You know, maybe not. But yeah, within about a week, I had an email back from the manager, and she was like, yeah, we really want you. It was quite a nerve-wracking process, mostly because you do have to stand in front of a group of 20 people. So when you first do it, it's quite nerve-wracking. You get very nervous. You get really like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. So my first walk was a bit of a disaster, let's say. I did walk off because I was that nervous. But yeah, now, yeah, I'm pretty confident now. I don't know who that person was 3 years ago. Something drastic happened. So are you going to demonstrate how you walk? So Joey's going to demonstrate how you walk an alpaca. I will just swiftly move out of the way. So the way to walk an alpaca is you want to stand on the left-hand side of your alpaca. So you always want your alpaca on the right-hand side of you. This is just the way we train them. And it's just so on a walk we can keep a close eye on the people and alpacas at the same time. You want two hands right at the end of the lead rope. This is because alpacas do not particularly like being on a tight rope. Now, we do give alpacas a bit of encouragement, which is a quick pull and release on the rope. But that is just to keep them moving. Now, alpacas are very, very, very greedy animals. So when we're along on our walk, they will just quite happily sit for 5 minutes and just eat. Whereas we've got a 60-minute walk to get round. So we do have to give them a bit of encouragement to get them going. So, yeah, that's pretty much how you walk an alpaca. Now, a lot of the time is if you stop, your alpaca will stop. If you walk, your alpaca will walk too. Now, a lot of the time we do get a lot of people that are like, come on, let's go, but they're not moving. So your alpaca is definitely just going to look at you and go, well, you're not moving, so neither am I. But yeah, that is pretty much how you walk an alpaca, very beautifully demonstrated by Joe and Douglas.
And whilst Joe's here, how did Charnwood Forest Alpacas start? And what made you pick alpacas?
It was my late husband's passion, and he bought 3 alpacas to start with, and I think we now have lived 200 and
Just over 200, yeah.
He had a passion for animals, and he recognised that alpacas had a very special bond with people, especially children with a different level of additional needs in terms of calmness and just bringing some peace, really. And that was very much his passion. So at the time he had very little money, so he bought 3 and then decided he'd like to breed. And now we have over 200, so that's how we started with alpacas. It grew and grew and grew.
So, do they respond to their names?
So, because we do have over 200, as do not. However, what they do respond to is the sight of the person. They do recognise the main people who they work with, which is really, really nice. It's quite funny because when we have newbies who do not play ball, but as soon as we go down, they're like, we better move. If you were to have maybe like 2 or 3, absolutely, they can learn their names. These are very clever. They can also be clicker trained, which is absolutely incredible. I would really like to have one and clicker train it. I just think it's remarkable what these guys can do. But yeah, because we have over 200, the main thing these guys respond to is come boys. So when we go and fetch them from their field, we'll just shout or scream, come boys, and they'll hopefully, well, the idea is that they come down. However, every animal, each to their own every day, might not come down, they might come down, and if not, we just grab a herd rope, we go around them all, and we fetch them in. So they're all very individual in their own ways.
How old do they live?
So alpacas do live to 15 to 20 years. Each year of their life is 4 years, so to them, they get to about 80 to 100. To us, it is just 15 to 20.
How many people do you employ to look after them?
So altogether on farm side, I think we mostly have about maybe 4 to 5 staff members. I think you don't need a lot because we're all trained to do our jobs. So, you know, we've got one person who's doing the feeds, we've got one person who's doing the walks, and then we've got one person weighing them, maybe body scoring them, which is mostly the manager at the times. I think on a day-to-day, it's normally 3 staff members we have in. We don't really need any more than that because we're all capable of doing what we need to do. We do, however, have quite a few volunteers, which will train along the way. They all get to sort of enjoy it the way we do. We get to enjoy these just like we do. So they learn a lot along the way as well. Hello, baby. What have we got to say, Lowton? You being involved, mister? Hey, you coming in? No? Lowton. Oh, so Lowton is our last year's baby. Now, Lowton is named after a sea monster. He's actually a really good one to actually come up because when he popped out, the reason he has his name is because he was a little monster when he came out. Mum couldn't actually keep up with him, so he came out quite large, very, very large, running around this. Heart of gold, his mum could not keep up with him. She was constantly moaning, where are you, where are you? And then he would just spring out of nowhere. So every year we have a theme for our name. So Lowton is part of our ocean and beach theme. So we've got Finn, Harbour, Dax, which means water, Lana, which is also water. We've got Dover, Cliff. There's a lot in here that are part of our ocean and beach. We've also got some happy sayings, and then we've got sayings and phrases. So we've got names like sky's the limit, walk the walk, talk the talk, bite the bullet, loose cannon, hedge your bets. Some very sweet names. And then our this year's babies is my absolute favourite. It's sweet treats. So we've got Biscoff, marshmallow, truffle. Hello, darling. We've got Rolo. An absolutely lovely theme, and I can't wait to start taking them out on a walk and be like, you are going to be walking marshmallow today. It's just, it sounds funny in my head. I absolutely love it. Just seeing here, we've got it here. So we've got Gifted right at the back here. I don't know if you can see him. Now, he's quite a fiery boy, a bit like his mum, very food orientated. His mum is snug as a bug. So Gifted was a very spontaneous alpaca, which we weren't expecting. Well, we were expecting, but we weren't expecting the colour of it, should I say. So he was bred with Snug as a Bug, who is a brown alpaca. And then I actually can't remember who his dad is. But when he popped out, we did kind of look at him and think, does this belong to us, or is this somebody else's? We've never birthed a grey alpaca before, so this was our first one. We've also got another grey alpaca on the farm. Her name's Sapphire. She's also quite fiery. She was a rescue, mostly because the owners at the time couldn't actually physically, look after her anyway. No, just because of how kind of fiery she is. But she's calmed down so much from since we've had her. You've got Gifted. Come on, mister. This shows the stubbornness of alpacas. If they don't want to do something, they'll tell you they don't want to do it. But sometimes, come on, mister. Come on. Come on.
He can have his own mind when you look like this.
He is absolutely gorgeous.
This alpaca is stunning, aren't you? So when you're beautiful as that, you can do what you want, basically. Oh, yeah. Okay? Yeah, you're beautiful and you know very gorgeous.
Another thing I am going to talk about as well is actually skin on alpacas. So a lot of the time, you do get alpacas with quite bad skin, almost a bit like ours. So you know when we're sort of like, we've been out in the summer and then it's really cold and then your hands get cracked. It's pretty much like that. Now we've got quite a few alpacas that are like that. We've got one called Daria. She's very, very crispy under her chin, on her feet, on her legs. So another one in here who does have that is Unify, who's just at the back. I don't know if you can see him. Big brown boy at the back. So all we do for that really is either udder cream, which is, I don't know how to say it, but it's got the most moisture in it, so to sort of moisten the skin. Another thing that is really, really good that we're using at the moment is aloe vera. Just like we would, put it on our hands, really softens them, and it's exactly the same with the alpacas as well. When we probably apply that, we do it every week, every day if we can, and if we can't do it every day, we'll do a day, miss a day, do a day, miss a day. And it's just keeping up with it as well, because a bit like Unify, he's got sort of like no fleece on his feet, so the more we keep up with doing the aloe vera and the skin treatment, that fleece will eventually start growing back again. It's just at the moment, because of it goes quite hot, wet, dry, it's just trying to get it going a little bit more.
So do alpacas suffer with any other health conditions?
Not particularly, no. The thing I will say about alpacas is they know how to hide what they're feeling. Sometimes you can have an alpaca that is absolutely fine one day and then really sadly die the next, and you just don't know why or what's gone on. You can absolutely do like an autopsy to figure out what is going on. But yeah, they're very, very hidden away animals. They don't like showing that they're vulnerable. For people like us who do work with them every day, we can sort of tell when one's feeling a bit off. But yeah, they're such hidden away animals that they don't really show vulnerability. So when we do spot something, we have to really get onto it, as it's a matter of life or death at that point. So yeah.
As well as walks, do you offer sessions where people can come and just be with the alpacas?
We do. So what we do is something called a weanling watch, which is a little bit like this, but instead with our babies from this year. So you'll pretty much be in this barn, in this area as well, and we'll bring down our mums and babies from this year, where you get to just sit here for half an hour and just enjoy their company, see what they're like with their mums, how playful they are, and just watch them run around like nutters. It's such a lovely experience. And because it's quite cold at the moment as well, it's nice to be out of the cold, so you'll be in here. It's a lovely, peaceful experience. But we do also hold private experiences as well, where if you just email into the admin team, they'll probably sort you out a private experience if you do just want to sit with some alpacas for a bit. We had someone come and do yoga with alpacas this year, which was quite lovely to see, because it's something we've never had before. But yeah, just email into our admin team if you are interested in doing any sort of experience, and I'm sure they'll sort you out. It's something quite ironic. So throughout summer, we do something called date night. It's quite a lovely experience. Now, it will normally be run by someone on farm team, which is normally either me, my colleague Jen, my other colleague Mo, or if Will's back by then, it'll be a colleague Will. And it's basically where you get a lovely bottle of Prosecco, or if you can have a non-alcoholic choice, you can have a non-alcoholic. You get a bag of feed, which is only £1 a bag, so it's up to you if you want to take some. And you get a little bit of like a little scone as well, which is really, really lovely. So that's another experience we do where you can just be surrounded by alpacas. Now, normally with that experience, we do have the boys, because they're doing the walks anyway, so then they just go off to our date night field. And it's basically where you get given a blanket, given a basket, and you find a spot in a field, you sit there for, how long is it? Is it 3 hours? 2 hours. And 2 hours does actually fly by because you're just having such a peaceful time. I love doing them because I can just sit there as well and just talk to so many people, and I just chin wag, and yeah, it's such a lovely experience to be a part of. We are going to wrap this up now. So it's been lovely to have so many questions of you guys, and I hope you've learned, hopefully, quite a bit about alpacas as well. And any experiences that you want to do, come and look on our website. If you did want to do any private experiences, have a cheeky look on our admin team, and I'm sure they'll sort you out with something. And yeah, I hope you really enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.